Hello, my name's Jackie and welcome back to my channel. For the next 7 days, I'm going to attempt to write at 6 a.m. every day. There are a couple of reasons why I'm doing this. The first one is that I have been struggling with my current work in progress. I've really found it difficult to get the creative juices flowing. I have images that I like, but when I try to expand them into scenes, I kept running into blanks. And I've been struggling to write for sessions that are longer than about 15 minutes at a time. So hopefully by writing earlier, I'll be able to write longer and get more done. The other thing is that because of coronavirus and working from home at the moment, life has become very unstructured. So I spend my working time at my laptop, at the dining table or on the couch. I spend my leisure time at my laptop, at the dining table or on the couch. I spend my writing time at my laptop, at the dining table or on the couch. And while this isn't going to change working remotely, I'm hoping that having the set time allocated to writing will create a feeling of more structure and then make me more productive. Beyond why do I want to do this, what am I hoping to get out of it? Well, one thing is I'd like to get more writing done. I'm hoping that by writing in the morning, I'll get the best of my creative energy and I won't spend it all on work and then be too exhausted in the evening to write or to write much. The other side of that is by writing in the morning, that means I've still got the whole day ahead of me, and I might even get to do a second writing session some days, which then means I'm writing more and hopefully getting more written. I also want to feel more motivated and disciplined. I feel like at the moment, because life is so unstructured, it's very easy to be lazy, and one of the things I found for me at least is when I have less on, I tend to want to do less. So forcing myself to have a bit more of a schedule will hopefully help me get more done, which will make me feel more motivated, which will make me more disciplined, and it will create this virtuous cycle. Related to that is simply getting the day off to a good start. So rather than waking up, seeing it's 6:30 and going, oh well, I don't need to start work for another couple of hours and I don't need to get ready for work anymore, so I'm just gonna lie in bed and sleep or watch YouTube or Netflix or just nothing. I'm hoping that getting my day off to a good start will help with the issues of motivation and discipline, and also make me feel a little bit better about myself and my day, because it's very easy to start the day feeling sluggish and unmotivated, and then that just leads to a bad, sluggish, unmotivated day. I'm also hoping that this challenge will not only help me get more of my book written, but will generate writing momentum, in the sense that I start to get more written and then I want to write more, and then I'm more enthusiastic so I write more, and so on and so forth until I have a book done. So fingers crossed. Now, with all of that covered, what are the parameters of this experiment? The first thing is that for the next 7 days, I will set my alarm for 5:45 a.m, which will give me 15 minutes to go to the bathroom, wash my face, get a hot chocolate or a cup of tea, and get settled in ready to write by 6 a.m. In that morning session, I want to do 60 minutes of productive time. And by productive time, I mean time when I'm producing something for my book, but not necessarily writing, just because going straight to writing with this project has been a bit of a challenge. So my definition of productive time includes writing, it includes outlining, it includes brainstorming. So anything where I'm developing content and ideas for the book. It does not include building a playlist for my book on Spotify. It does not include Googling random things and questions that come up. It does not include looking at New York through Street View and trying to figure out the neighborhoods that this story takes place in. Those are helpful things, but they're not an example of me actively producing content for my book. So even though those things are allowed in the writing sessions, they do not count towards the 60 minutes of productive time. So given that I want 60 minutes of productive time, how long am I going to be writing for each morning? Well, the short answer is however long it takes to get to that 60 minutes. The reality is, though, that I'll be writing from 6 and then I generally start work at 8:30, so I have up to 2.5 hours and maybe take some time off that just so I can get breakfast. So that is the plan for the next 7 days, and I will see you tomorrow morning.
Good morning, it is 5:30 a.m. on day 1. I've actually been up since 4 because I don't know, I just woke up at 4 and then I couldn't get back to sleep because I kept thinking about my alarm going off at 5:45. So I'm hoping this is something that does not repeat itself every day of this experiment. So for now, I am going to brush my teeth, wash my face, and make a hot chocolate, and then get settled in to write.
It is now 5:50 a.m. The good thing about getting up early is that it gives you more time to faff around with your dual monitor setup when it isn't turning on. So I've got For the Words open. I know which scene I'm going to write. It involves chopping up a dead body, so there might be some Googling on that as well. And it's time to get started and get in my hour of productive time before work.
A few minutes later.
So it's 10 minutes in and I just realized I've been writing my book from the wrong point of view and the wrong tense. And I've been trying to figure out, why can't I get into it? Why does it feel different? And then I went back and read through what I'd done. I'm like, wait a minute, why am I saying Cecily? Why not I? And yeah. Maybe a downside to writing this early. Maybe a downside to being up since 4. Or maybe this is just due to not having taken some time to get settled into the book before I started writing, because this is probably one of the few writing sessions I've done on this project where I haven't taken time to read through what I did the day before or look at some of the different books that are my inspirations for this project, and I think it shows. So I'm going to take a step back, look at those things, and then get back to writing. It's now 7:54, so it's been 2 hours, and of that I've had 50 minutes of productive time. And by productive time, I mean time when I was producing something for my book, so either writing or outlining as opposed to Googling. In that time, I had a 10-minute session and 2 20-minute writing sessions. I don't think it went any better than any of my afternoon sessions have gone over the past few weeks. I think this book is just taking longer because it's a more challenging book. And one of the reasons I'm thinking that is because every time I start something new, it takes a long time to get into it. And I don't even mean a new book, I mean a new type of scene. So most of what I've written so far is about the protagonist obsessing over a woman she's obsessed with. And this new scene did not involve that woman at all, so the tone and focus were very different. She basically found a dead body and had to dispose of it, and because I've been so focused on this one core relationship, I wasn't really sure how she should deal with the body emotionally, so I got a bit stuck there. And then the other thing is, I personally have never cut up a dead body before, so there was a lot of Googling, and I'm sure I'm on some watch lists now. Also, some rather disturbing things. I did find a website that was talking about preparing dead humans for eating, like how to turn them into steaks and so on. So yeah, be careful what you search for. Now that it's coming up to 8 o'clock, I'm going to log into work and focus on that for today. I would really like to come back to this and just get this scene finished sometime later today. However, given that I've been up for so long, I don't know how my energy is going to go as the day progresses, so we'll see. It is now the end of the day on day 1, so it is 6:43 p.m, and I'm tempted to start writing again. And not just because I'm doing the experiment, and I said multiple writing sessions a day was one of my goals, but I stopped writing this morning and got to work, and then it was around 10 a.m. I think, and I couldn't stop thinking about my story because I think I mentioned this morning, I was writing, I got some words in, but it wasn't really working. And I kept trying to figure out the puzzle that was actually not even this morning's scenes, but the sequence of scenes around it. Because at the moment, everything I've done is in the first 25% of the book, but I've jumped around a little bit, and this one was slightly out of sequence. It won't happen for another couple of scenes after the last one I worked on. So I was thinking about it and how everything would flow together and how the surrounding scenes would work, and I couldn't get it out of my head, so I started brainstorming. I have my lovely notes here, and I had an idea for the first official meeting, which was fun, and I've scribbled out some dialogue, and I really want to work on this scene. So I'm going to try working on this scene and see how it goes. It is coming up to 7:30 and I'm done for the evening, but for one of the first times since I started this project, I'm actually really happy with what I did. So my session was 6:46 to 7:23, so 37 minutes. In fact, for comparison's sake, let's go through this morning's numbers. So this morning my session was 5:50 a.m. to 7:50 a.m. and in that time I had 50 minutes of what I'd call productive time. I wrote 757 words, so that is about 15.14 words a minute. So I got stuff done, but it definitely wasn't my best. I think my best session on this project was about 40 to 45 words a minute, so not doing too well. This afternoon, however, I wrote from 6:46 to 7:23. The entire session was productive, so that's 37 minutes. I did 1,097 words, which is 29.65 words a minute. So that's much better. And on top of that, I actually feel really good about what I wrote. It was fun, and they've met, and they have chemistry, and no one knows how psycho and controlling the other one is. So it's like everything's sunny and hopeful, which is exactly what I wanted for this point. I don't know if this has to do with me writing this morning. Maybe it's just a coincidence that I happened to write this morning and then I was more inspired to write later. So we'll see how the rest of this week goes, but for a first day, I'm feeling pretty happy with myself.
Good morning. It is 5:48 a.m. on day 2, and I've been up since 4:44 because my body doesn't like to wait for alarms. So I lay in bed trying to get back to sleep, but obviously didn't, and I've been up and out of bed since about 5:30. I'm thinking that if the same thing happens tomorrow, I might just get up whenever my body wakes up and get started then. In fact, if this happens over the next couple of days, I might do a couple of different things. One is get up at 4 a.m. or whenever I wake up and get started then. The second is get up at that time, but the time before 6 a.m. is mine to do what I want with, so I can spend that time watching YouTube or reading a book or whatever I want, and it'll be interesting to see what my writing experience is like on either of those days. Though ideally, I'll just sleep until 5:45 and this question will be academic. So, I'm a little bit nervous about today's session just because yesterday's one went so well, like yesterday evening's one. I think I'm going to spend some time brainstorming and outlining first to get my head around what I want to write today, and then I'll start trying to do the actual writing. One of the challenges I'm having is that because so much of the early parts of this book involves Cecily stalking Kara, a lot of what I'm having to think about is what does she learn about her? And that's one of the things that meant the first week or so of writing. In fact, the first 2 weeks of writing took so long because I had scenes, I knew, okay, Cecily was going to be watching her with her camera from the fire escape and she was going to be sitting outside the bakery, but I hadn't actually thought about what she would learn about Kara. So I've had to, as you should, I've had to develop this whole life for Kara and all of these things Cecily can figure out. And what happens then is I have a new scene and I've got to think, okay, what else can she figure out? There's no point in eavesdropping on her with her friends if they don't talk about anything that gives Cecily more information that she can either do something with or read into. One of the challenges I'm having now is that I think there's still potential for scenes like that, even though she's filled out her sketch of who she thinks Kara is. I just don't know if they should all come now or if there should be more of these scenes later. So I just thought of one idea of another thing she can discover, and I'm not sure where to put it. In terms of scenes in general, I don't have an outline for a scene I'd like to focus on, but there is one or a couple of little images that form part of the same, not technically the same scene, I guess it would be the written version of a montage, whatever that is. So 2 images from the same montage. So I think I might just try writing them to see if that can get me started. After this, I also have a feeling that I'm going to need to go back to the beginning and fill in some of the gaps, because my approach so far, because it's the early part of the book, has just been writing these snippets that I like. But as of yesterday, we got up to the official first meeting, and this is sort of when the plot's supposed to really start, so I think I should try and join everything together before continuing. I'm not sure, I'm just going to start writing. I'm a little bit tired if you can't tell. Unfortunately, my camera ran out of battery this morning, so I had to stop filming. But this is what you missed. So I started working at 5:55 a.m. and finished at 7:25 a.m. There were 3 mini sprints in there. The first one was 10 minutes of outlining work, which didn't go as well as I was hoping, to be completely honest. And then I just focused on the scene that I wanted to write. So I did a 20-minute sprint and a 30-minute sprint. So that is exactly 60 minutes all up, which is my productive target. When it comes to word count, in my 20-minute sprint, I did 636 words. So that's 31.8 words a minute, which is good. I think about 30 words is good productive time. More than that means I'm working really well. Less than that, especially less than 20, means things are going very slowly. And then in my 30-minute sprint, I did 621 words with 20 minutes a word, so that one was a little bit slower. All in all, I like some of what I did and don't like some of what I did. It was one of those scenes where, like, the moment that I wanted to capture, I really like the moment, but everything around the moment is a bit meh, so it will obviously need some revising. Other than that, I'm feeling a bit jet lagged, to be honest. I really hope that I sleep until 5:45 tomorrow morning. But now I'm going to get some lunch, have a break, and then get back to work. It is 7 a.m. on day 3, and I wrote for 55 minutes from 6 a.m. to 6:55, and it was the worst writing day I've had, not even this week, but this project. I didn't have a set scene I wanted to work on, so I went in with the intention of filling in some of the gaps between the last few pieces I wrote, and it was harder than expected. Like, I feel like those gaps needed some outlining. I'm also not sure if I want to keep one of the pieces I wrote because it's in the stalking section of the book before they've actually met, and I was thinking about incorporating like some following on social media, and it just doesn't, what I've added doesn't add anything unless I want to start adding in some like actual examples of posts, but then I think it's going to get too much like You by Carolyn Kepnes, so I'm tempted to just take it out again, but if I take it out again, then is it realistic? Because social media is such a big part of so many people's lives these days, and it is the logical place you would go to find information about someone that you want to get information on. So I'm not sure what to do with that. But all in all, I wrote that bit, didn't like it, and basically, I don't even know how to describe my writing session this morning, because it's not like I was writing for a couple of minutes and then Googling something. Like, I was in my document for most of the time, but a lot of the time I was just staring at it and thinking. So in my 55 minutes, I did 251 words, which is about 4.5 words a minute. So yeah, I thought 15 words a minute was bad, and this is a new low. All in all, I am feeling quite tired. Even though it's just day 3 of this challenge, I was tempted to stop it today just because I wanted to be able to sleep without thinking about getting up for my alarm. So last night I actually woke up at 1:20 a.m. and I did get back to sleep. So I'm not sure when the final time I woke up was, but I did wake up a few times, so my sleep has been disrupted, and I think it's just because I'm thinking about this alarm. It's not even this challenge. If I was doing this challenge where I wrote as soon as I woke up naturally, I think it would be a different experience. So I started today's session not only not knowing which scene I wanted to work on, but I was also really tired and not motivated. So I think later today I'm going to try to take some time to think about what I want to work on tomorrow and maybe outline some ideas, and then I'll have a starting point for when I get up tomorrow. Thank God it's the weekend.
Because it means there's time for me to go walking after I write. Because when I go walking, my mind starts to mull over everything I've been working on and I start to have more ideas. And the problem with having to start working immediately after writing is that, one, I can't go for a walk, and two, even if I could go for a walk, I wouldn't have time to do these ideas or to continue working on the book because I have to get to work. So, yay weekend! So I went on my 1.5 hour walk. I just spent some time chilling and watching YouTube, and now I've decided I'm actually going to read through everything I've already done for reciprocal stalking, and I'm going to try to fill in the gaps that I have, because I feel like I'm getting to the point where getting this first part of the book sorted out is a necessary step in order for me to be able to proceed with the rest of the book, rather than continuing to write random scenes and hopefully stitch them together at some point in the future. So, I am going to count this as productive time. However, I'm expecting the word count per minute will be quite low because obviously I'm going to be reading. And yes, I am wrapped in a blanket, even though it looks beautiful and sunny outside. It is only 3 degrees because I live in Estonia, and in Estonia you should be prepared for snow any point up until June. At least based on my experience last year. So it's sunny, but still a bit chilly. I'm a bit chilly, and I was curled up in the blanket on the couch watching YouTube, and when I got up and decided to be productive, I didn't want to leave the blanket behind, hence the outfit. I have also switched back into my pajama pants because real pants are not a part of my life anymore unless I'm going for a walk. Anyway, let's get to work. It is coming up to 2 hours of me looking at this, and it's actually better than I was expecting. Like, there are still things I need to fill in, but they're not big plot things so far. It's more like adding a little bit of detail. But for instance, I've decided Kara is a bit of a neat freak, and so adding some observations around that. But it's not going to change anything that comes after it. It's just I need to add in a paragraph earlier. So all in all, like, I'm actually feeling pretty good about this. Obviously, it's a first draft, it needs work, but it is better than I was expecting, much less gappy. So my document is about 18,000 words, and I'm 8,000 words through that. So this is taking much longer than I expected, to be completely honest, but it is going to contribute to my goal of averaging an hour a day for Camp Nanowrimo. So from here, I'm going to have a break and get lunch. And I'll go back to this afternoon. I'm feeling a little bit mentally spent now, so I might just do some notes and brainstorming about the bits that I need to fill out as I come across them, rather than trying to fill them all in a single session. And that might be what I work on tomorrow.
Good morning. It is 4:29 a.m. on day 7. I woke up at 4:17 and knew there was no way I was getting back to sleep today. So I'm up, I'm going to do my hour, and then there's a very good chance I will go back to bed. It is now 5:42 a.m, so I've been writing for an hour, and I'm very glad this is over and that tomorrow morning I can wake up naturally without worrying about an alarm going off. So from here, I'm going to go back to bed and see if I can get some more shut-eye, and I will do a proper outro in a couple of hours. It is the end of my experiment of writing at 6 a.m. every day for 7 days. So to start this recap, I'd like to just give a brief overview of the results. My goal was to do at least an hour of productive time every day, which I did. On Monday, so day 1, and Saturday, day 5, I exceeded that significantly. So Monday I did 87 minutes, and then on Saturday I also exceeded it. I did 170 minutes, which included my 1 hour session in the morning, and then almost 2 hours of reviewing my draft so far. I'll probably exceed that today as well, but I wanted to get this video out early, so I've just done it after my morning session rather than waiting until the end of the day. When it comes to the amount of writing I definitely did more than over the previous 2 7-day periods. So in my first week of Camp Nanowrimo, I did 3,037 words, and in my second week, I did 4,795. So
Not bad, because I was producing words at least, but nothing to write home about. In the last week, by contrast, I did over 8,000, so that's a significant jump up, and that's largely because I did have writing sessions every day and I was forcing myself to write every day. When it comes to whether that was because it was first thing in the morning, I don't think so. I think it was more a case of forcing myself to do the sessions every day. And the reason I think that was because my writing efficiency, so the number of words I was writing a minute, wasn't very high throughout the challenge. In my worst session on Wednesday, I did a 55-minute session and I wrote 251 words. So that's about 4.5 words a minute, which is terrible. Whereas my best day in this project so far was actually before this challenge, and I did 44.5 words a minute. So there's a significant jump there. Throughout the entire week, I did have a number of sessions where my words per minute was between 20 and 30, which is about average for me when I'm writing something new. However, there were a lot of sessions that were more around the 10 to 15 word mark. So even though I was writing more, I wasn't writing as efficiently as I'd like. All in all, I was writing more, I did stick to the challenge, I did increase my word count because I was writing more, but the efficiency of my writing time was not up there compared with past results. So what didn't I like about this experiment? Well, the big one that's probably not going to surprise anyone is having to get up with an alarm clock. Now, something I haven't mentioned earlier in this video is that 6 a.m. is not actually that early for me. In fact, pre-coronavirus, I would naturally wake up between 5:30 and 6:30 a.m. without an alarm clock. So it's not like I naturally get up at 9 and I was forcing myself to get up hours earlier. However, in the last month or 5 weeks that I've been working from home, I have found that I've gotten a bit lazier. I do tend to lie in bed for longer because I don't need to get up and get ready to go to the office. So I've often been sleeping until 7 or 8, and even on the weekend occasionally 9, which is really late for me. So even though it wasn't early for me typically, because I am typically an early bird, it was a little bit of an adjustment after the past few weeks. Having said that though, I think the alarm was causing more problems than the time I was getting up, because as I mentioned in earlier days, I would wake up sometimes hours before my alarm was going to go off, and then I couldn't get to sleep because I kept thinking, oh, I've only got an hour and a half until the alarm goes off. Oh, now I've only got an hour left until the alarm goes off. So often once I was up, regardless of whether that was 5:45 or much earlier. That did improve throughout the week, thankfully, but for the first few days I felt extremely tired because of that. I felt like I was jet lagged, actually, so I had that exhausted, nauseated feeling that you have when you basically fly from Europe to Australia and don't sleep for 30 plus hours. So it wasn't ideal, and that probably contributed to the difficult writing sessions or not so productive writing sessions that I had. Something else that I didn't like was having to do it for 7 days straight and not having the opportunity for a day off. I feel like if I'd been able to just take a break on Wednesday, then I would have felt a bit better. Having said that though, if I had done that, then I might not have adjusted, because now at the end of the week, I feel like I'm used to getting up at that time, and I could probably get up and not set an alarm and still maintain the same routine. So not really sure where I stand on that. I suppose 7 days isn't that long in the great scheme of things, but if you are struggling and if you're really tired, it is nice to give yourself a break, and in the context of this 7-day challenge, I wasn't able to. The other thing that I didn't like was having to go straight from my writing to my work. So I mentioned on Saturday that I have been thinking about my ideas more in the day, and it was really nice on Saturday to do my first writing session and then to go for the walk afterwards to mull over my ideas. Whereas during the week I didn't have that option, because I'd have my writing session in the morning and then I'd start working, and I would still, except on the days when it was snowing, I would still go for my walk at lunchtime, but then it was almost too late to do anything about the ideas. So even though I walked at lunchtime and was still thinking about the book, I didn't end up going back and doing another writing session because I would get back from lunch and have to get back to work. So ideally it would have been nice to just have a bit more time, or have some time between the writing and work. Sort of related to this was that I lost my chill out time before work. So because I naturally tend to be up a lot earlier than when I start work, I have a few hours in the morning when I can do whatever I want, and I'll often watch YouTube or read something. And that's been my relaxation time. And that started when I finished working on my business full-time a few years ago and decided to go back to corporate. And I went through a number of periods when I was quite unhappy at work. Going to the office felt like a chore. So this time before work was my time to sort of ease into the day and do something enjoyable first thing. And it was like a self-soothing band-aid type of thing. And I didn't realize how much I was relying on that until I had to stop it. And it wasn't even stopping it before work because in the last few days of the challenge, I actually stopped doing writing sprints and spreading out my hour of productivity over a couple of hours. I actually just did my hour at the beginning, and then I'd have half an hour or so of time when I could relax between writing and work. But when I woke up, I immediately wanted to go to YouTube or wanted to pick up my Kindle or do something enjoyable rather than getting straight into writing. And I haven't decided how I feel about that because on one hand, it's a crutch, and it's a crutch I'm using to get myself through work when I'm not that happy, and it can be helpful, especially if the work scenario isn't going to change anytime soon. However, the point of a crutch is to help you heal. So they are useful for a period, but then you're supposed to get off them and start, if you've broken a foot or a leg or whatever, you're supposed to start walking independently and rehabilitating and getting back to full health. And when you've been using something as a crutch for over 3 years now, that's probably not a good thing. So on one hand, something that I didn't like about the challenge was that I wasn't able to use that crutch anymore. But on the other hand, it was a good thing because it made me realize how much I was depending on having the opportunity to watch YouTube or Netflix or read a book in order to start my day. And even though this challenge was just 7 days, I do feel like I've weaned off that to an extent already. So it's also interesting seeing how easily you can let things go when you make yourself do them. But it was uncomfortable for the first few days, and I did really feel a lot of resistance. And there were a couple of days when I thought, oh God, I just want to watch another episode of Community, or I just want to watch this video. And no one other than me will know if I wait until 6:30 to start rather than 6 o'clock. But the point of this experiment is for me as well as to do a video, and I'm failing myself if I cheat, so I didn't do that. There were a couple of days when I was up a bit earlier and I did have 10 or 20 minutes of that time, but I always was ready to start writing at 6, if not earlier. The final thing I didn't like about this experiment was I felt like I didn't have the time to prep. I felt like because I had committed to having this writing time from 6 o'clock, I needed to sit down and start writing immediately. And I think this is just a mental thing because that wasn't actually part of the challenge. The challenge was to start working on my book, and that could have been prep time or research time as long as there was 60 minutes of productive time in that session. But because I had this challenge, I always felt unprepared, and often it would happen where during the day I would have ideas and go, I should do some brainstorming or outlining, but because I'd already done my work for the day, I really wasn't motivated to do any more, so I wouldn't do anything, and then I'd wake up the next day and still feel unprepared. So probably a flaw with me, more so than the experiment, but that's something that happened. I was getting up early, and because I had this time when I had to start, I felt like I didn't have any flexibility around that to really get into the zone before I started writing. However, there were a few things that I did like. One of them was that by looking at my writing first thing in the morning, it was then out of the way, and it wasn't this thing hanging over my head all day that I was feeling guilty about or anxious about, which has happened in the past few weeks, especially because life has been so crazy lately and work's been so crazy, and I would get through the day and go, oh my God, I'm so exhausted, I can't believe I need to write as well after this. And that didn't happen in the last week because it didn't really matter how I felt throughout the day in terms of writing because the writing was already done, so that was a big plus. The other thing I liked is that after a few days, sort of around Thursday I think, so day 4, it started to feel like the new normal. And I actually don't remember how I wrote after work now, even though I was doing it like the week before last. I couldn't actually imagine writing if I left it until after work. At the moment, I almost feel like I have to get it done first thing, otherwise it won't get done. The other thing I liked was that Because I started the day with my book, I would think about the book more during the day. So I mentioned earlier that when I go on my walks at lunchtime, it's a good time to mull over. And in the previous weeks, I wasn't thinking about my book in those walks. I was listening to podcasts or music or Zombies Run. Whereas in the last week, I've often been walking and not listening to anything because I'm thinking about, oh, maybe this character could be developed this way, and maybe she does this, and this is how this one thinks, and that's how they both share this controlling trait, yet they're completely different. Like, there were a few aha moments like that, and they didn't help with the immediate writing needs because I wasn't mapping out scenes, but I was getting a better understanding of each of the characters and just having not even time to think, because it's not like I had more time with this challenge, but just having already done something with the book and making sure it was front of mind meant that my mind continued working on it through the day, so that when I had a little bit of quiet time, that's when more ideas would pop up. So I really liked that. And the other thing that I liked is that it created the possibility for multiple writing sessions a day. Now, for most of the week, I didn't actually do multiple writing sessions. I did on Monday because I had an idea. So day 1, I did multiple sessions. And then on day 6, I did my writing session and read through half of what I'd written. And today I'm probably going to read through the other half and continue making notes about what I can improve. And although I don't think it's realistic to do multiple writing sessions every day, especially during the week when you might be a bit spent after work, I think having this sort of setup means it's possible, whereas it wasn't possible before. So before, even on the weekend, I would often wait until 2 p.m. to start writing. And if I start writing at 2 p.m. and have a session for a couple of hours and I'm done at 4, I'm probably not going to write again that day. Whereas if I have a session at 6 a.m. and I'm done by 7:30, then at 11 I could be having another one. And then at 3 p.m. I could potentially be having another one. So just by getting it done early, it means there's more time to do more work, but in an enjoyable way, rather than feeling like you're forcing it and pushing through because you have time to recover after that morning session. Now, when it comes to goals, what I'd hoped to achieve in this experiment was write more, improve my motivation and discipline, get a good start to the day, and build writing momentum. When it comes to writing more, I did definitely write more. I got more words in and I spent more time writing, which it is my NaNoWrimo goal this month. I want to spend 30 hours on this book. My efficiency went down. However, it wasn't actually impacting anything else. It's not like I was spending 5 hours on my book to get 500 words done and was missing out on my day job or was not spending time with my husband in order to do this. It was more that I was having longer sessions, but they were before work in time that I would have been wasting, but spending on unproductive activities like consuming content rather than creating content. So even though I was less efficient, it was sort of a costless loss of efficiency. When it comes to motivation and discipline, I don't think I felt any more motivated and disciplined. Earlier in the week, I definitely felt extremely demotivated because I was so tired. Towards the end of the week, I had an easier time getting up in the morning, but I didn't feel particularly excited or eager to start working. Like, I would get up in the morning and still want to go to YouTube. So I don't think it helped with motivation and discipline. However, I don't think it helped with motivation, but in terms of discipline, I was disciplined because I continued with the challenge. So I think that's just a sign that those two qualities don't necessarily go hand in hand, and you can do work and commit to doing work even if you're not feeling motivated to do the work. The next one was about starting off the day in a good way, and the idea was if I started the day in a good way, I'd have a better day. And I don't think this was the case. So I started the day in a somewhat productive way and I made a commitment and I stuck to it, but often those days were not that positive because I was so tired. And what I found was once the writing session was done, it didn't really have an impact on the rest of my day. So the rest of my day was just work as per usual, and it didn't change how I approached the rest of the day or how I felt about the rest of the day. Then the final one was about building writing momentum. So I don't think I'm at the stage where I've got so much momentum that the book's writing itself and I'm eager to write constantly. However, the momentum is definitely increasing. So I listed my word counts earlier and they've gone up week after week. I think next week it'll probably go up again. I think the fact that I'm writing in the morning and thinking about the book more in the day means I'm more inclined to write more. So these are all good things that are contributing to increased momentum, and I hope that if things keep going the way they're going, I will be able to hit my 30 hours by the end of the month. So all in all, I think this has been a really good experience for me. If you don't write first thing, I highly recommend giving it a try if it's possible for you to do so, just to see if you like it. And if you do decide to give it a try, I recommend giving it at least 7 days just so you can get used to the new routine and give it a proper chance of working for you. In my case, I'm actually going to try to continue writing in the morning. I'm not going to set an alarm anymore because I don't think that's good for me. So the plan is I will wake up naturally and the first part of my morning before work will be focused on the book. Ideally, my 60 minutes of productivity will be done that morning, and then if I have any other ideas later in the day or decide to do a second session, that's just a bonus. So that is all from me for today. In the comments below, please let me know what your writing routine is like. Are you someone who writes first thing in the morning? Do you do it in the evening after work? Or do you have to squeeze in little snippets throughout the day, such as on your commute or in your lunch break? And how has the current social distancing, self-isolation, quarantine environment changed your writing habits? And finally, if you could change one thing about your writing routine, what would it be? Please let me know below because I am fairly new at writing fiction and I am keen to learn from all the other writers out there. If you liked this video, please give me a big thumbs up and I will see you next time. Bye.